The next thing is they talk about 5 junctures or locations of where we can integrate. So if we look at page 44, what does the word juncture mean? Juncture. Do you know? Okay. Your book basically says it's also a location. So if you look on page 44, the top there, this is the second thing that we look at when we talk about integrating communication messages. And a juncture is either a time or a place. Okay, it's a location where we can integrate the message. So let's just look at that. Okay, a juncture is a particular point in time or a place where things join together. So when we look at communication integration, those are the space or the location or the area in the organization or the time in the organization where we can integrate our communication messages. So they say there on page 45, 2.5.2, the process and interventions that occur at a number of locations in the organization directly determine its communication. They determine the degree to which the organization's communication is to be integrated. Ultimately, they determine the corporate brand as it is perceived in the minds of the stakeholders. So these things determine the perceptions that the customer or the stakeholder, internal or external, have of the organization. And they identify those 5 junctures. Okay? Firstly, integrating your mission into the strategy. Implementing your strategy, it goes on to communicating that strategy externally, service delivery, and then what's the customer's expectation of the organization. Okay, let's look at each of those individually very quickly. So that's on page 45, the first one. And basically, how I understand it, it's like a little pathway, and there's this pickup truck that is delivering certain things in certain areas. Okay, so there's the little pathway. The truck is driving and dropping information off. Okay, to make sure that it is integrated into the organization. So we looked at already what those 4 messages. Now we go on to see, but where should we integrate those 4 messages? And then the first one they say is we need to make sure that it is already part of the organization's mission. Okay, and we'll look at a video clip on Coca-Cola just to see how they can do it, and also at their mission and vision. Okay. We need to understand that you cannot think strategically if it's not already part of the organization's mission to do something. Okay. And to use a really absurd example, think of teasers. Think of a strip club. Okay. Maybe they're not that busy in the afternoons, so they've got these entertainment venues. So one of the marketing guys come up and say, let's do children's birthday parties there. Okay? It's in the afternoons, there's no other things happening. Let's do that. That will fill up the venue. We can do little themed events, Alice in Wonderland or whatever. Okay? Do you think that will form part of the mission of teasers? No. It's just not related at all. So can you see how important it is to already in the mission of your organization to put strategy in there? Okay, we'll look at more examples now. So they say in your book, page 45, 2.5.2.1, is this is the juncture or the location at which strategic decisions are taken. Processes and communication here are normally strongly influenced by the decision makers in the organization. That is your top management. Okay? They say for communication integration to proceed, it's necessary that management's got a clear understanding of the mission of the organization, that they understand customers' needs, your market orientation, okay, and that they are able to develop a strategy that brings these things in line. It cannot be too far apart. Once that's included in our mission, we can implement our strategy. Okay, page 45 at the bottom. They say, this is the location at which strategy is implemented. It usually occurs at managerial level. Managers translate and implement strategy into specific objectives for the different divisions of the organization and to maintain and support the product or service. Okay. We then move on, and now we want to, it's part of the organization internally, now we want to communicate it outside the organization. Can you see that the mission, implementing strategy is inside the company? Now we want to tell people outside the company about that. Okay, and that is where we plan and execute or implement or communicate this strategy to people outside. Okay, page 46. This is a juncture at which external communication is planned and executed. External communication is normally produced and maintained by very specialist communicators. Okay, corporate advertising, PR, direct marketing, or any of the other areas of planned communication. Specialist communicators may work directly for the organization, maybe as freelancers, or they may be employed. They say we need insight into what is the mission, what is the aim of the organization, and secondly, we need to understand the customer's expectations of the product or the service. So when we talk about this, do you think your Mr. Price jeans are going to last you for 15 years? Okay, that's not the strategy. The strategy is to keep up with trends, low price, mass, okay, where the strategy of a Levi's or a branded jean will be very different from the strategy of your Mr. Price. Okay. Once we've communicated the strategy externally, we can focus on our service. Now this is exactly what we said, is what is your expectation? What is that service guarantee that you get after you bought a product? You want to know that the organization is supporting you if you find fault with their product. Okay. This comes back to that two-way communication flow, that participation, that relationship that we're building with the customer. If the customer is unhappy with the product, they probably won't want to buy that product again if it's not satisfactory dealt in their service to you. Okay, I've bought products from certain places before. We also took it back. Okay, they didn't want to replace the product because we didn't have the box anymore. Okay, anyway, they eventually exchanged it, okay, without a box, and it broke again. So we decided never ever to buy from that company again. Okay, and it's so strong that is how the customer feels and communicate to certain suppliers. Other people, you'll go back and they'll go out of their way to try and accommodate you. Look at when your car breaks down or something like that, that sometimes they'll give you a replacement car until your car is fixed. That's really good service. Yes?
I think it's that words or it goes also where they expect you to still have your tags on when you return your clothes.
Yes?
They expect you to still have your tags on.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Why is that?
I don't remember.
Because I won't take back clothes that have been worn.
So you've got a big party tonight, you go and get your evening dress at Woolies, and then tomorrow you take it back and say, no, it's too small for me. Unfortunately, that's what some people do. Okay, so, yeah. Anyway, delivering your service. If you look on page 46, they say this is the juncture, or the location, the stop on this road of integrating communication, at which the organization's service or product is delivered to the customer and service delivery occurs at every point in contact between the customer and the organization, product or service. These points include all that occur before, during and after the sale, every interaction we have, any actual experience we have, any routine or experience with the equipment or the resources or with the company. Okay. What happens when you go to a Woolworths or to a store, you ask someone on the shop floor for a product, okay? They are rude to you or they don't help you, and you leave that shop saying, "Yo, the people at Woolworths is really unhelpful." You don't refer to a specific individual. Think of your experience with Varsity College. Just because a head of department isn't answering your phone call or listening to your query, now the whole of Varsity College is bad. Okay? And we classify people as the organization. And that just explains how important it is to integrate your communication and to keep building those relationships, vice versa. Okay. Next one is forming customer expectations of the organization. So the fifth stop on integrating your communication. They say this is the juncture at which the customer forms his or her expectations of the organization, the product or the service. These expectations originate from a number of sources: customers' personal wants and needs, their perceptions, their experiences, okay, unsolicited communication from sources other than the organization image, corporate image, or the organization's planned communication. So here we get our perception, okay, how we see the company. How do we see the company? Is through the way they communicate to us.